So Panasonic just came out with a new firmware update. I think that is in general a really great thing about Panasonic is that they keep updating their cameras for a really long time. Seems like this update was mainly to bring the feature set in line for the S line of cameras, all of their full frame cameras. So now all of them have a similar set of features where they all have hybrid zoom. That being said, I have a big issue with this software update, specifically in regards to the S5 IIx. The S5 IIx is very similar to the S5 II. It only has, I think, 4 features which distinguish it from the S5 II. Those features are SSD recording, external RAW, ProRes, internal or external, and live streaming. Out of those 4 features, they basically removed half of live streaming. So for the live streaming feature, there was basically 2 options, RTP and RTMP. And while they're only one letter apart, there's a huge difference between how the two work. RTP basically means that your camera acts as a server, meaning that you can use a client like a computer to connect to the camera and get the live stream off of it. But the camera is the one receiving the connections from a computer. RTMP, the camera is pushing the live stream to a server. This can be important because this basically changes how you would interact with the stream. Now, obviously, if I'm streaming to YouTube, I don't expect YouTube to connect to my camera to get the stream. RTMP is perfect for streaming for like YouTube Live. If I am running, let's say, 5 cameras at a church and I want to basically create like a live broadcast for Sunday morning, I want to control the broadcasting of that, and I want to basically gather all the streams together, and then I would broadcast it to YouTube. And that's where RTP was so useful, because with RTP, first of all, you get lower latency because there's just a connection between the computer and the camera. And using Ethernet, you had a very stable connection and it was more direct. So now, if you want to use RTMP, what you basically have to do is you have to set up an additional server that's an RTMP server. Then you have to have your camera broadcast to your local network to its own RTMP server, which you set up just for this. Then you take the feed from the RTMP server, bring it into OBS, and then broadcast it again to another RTMP server. So it's basically just making it more complicated for no reason. If you had been looking for a camera that could do RTP, you were like, oh, well, I guess I have to upgrade to the S5 IIx to get that. But what did they say specifically as to the rationale why they removed it? So if you look at the software update information, you'll notice that they also removed RTMP. Well, in the RTMP section, they say that it's a European thing, which might be some sort of European Eurozone regulation, which, okay, that kind of makes a little bit of sense. And I personally really can't stand when people do something like this, when they remove a feature for security purposes, because you've already sold me the camera. My security is not your concern. It's my concern. And the thing that makes the least sense of all of this, RTP is specifically meant, at least the way that I envision it being used, for use on a local network. It literally required an Ethernet connection. So you couldn't use RTP over Wi-Fi. You had to plug in a physical cable with an adapter into the camera. So what security concern could there possibly be given that it doesn't require the internet to work? RTMP, if you wanted to stream to YouTube or something, you would need to use the internet, where potentially maybe someone can try to get access to that stream or something. But if I connect my Ethernet cable to my camera and the other side to my laptop, explain to me where the security hole comes in. There's 2 devices and I'm controlling both of them and they're connected using Ethernet. I don't think that this sounds to me, at least in the use case that I laid out, like a security concern. if there was a real security issue, then just put a warning saying, be aware that this may not be secure. Which again, I have no idea why it wouldn't be secure because it's a physical local network. But okay, fine. Yeah. Put up a warning saying, hey, use this at your own risk because, it might not be secure. Great. But they didn't do that. They completely removed the feature from every S5 IIx. They removed RTMP from the European version of the S5 IIx. Someone brought up a really interesting point about Canon cameras and Magic Lantern. And I think that must have been what happened, is that maybe by using RTP, by being able to connect to the camera when the camera is running as a server, maybe you could change some firmware or change the camera in some way. And I think that must be why they removed it, because they would want to keep the camera locked down, which is fair enough. But I think that removing the feature, I don't think that's a good trade-off at all. When you take a look at what that means, I bought this camera because it was the one that Panasonic said was good for live streaming. And then in the next software update, they remove a lot of the live streaming features. I'm really disappointed that this is being removed from the S5 IIx. I think the camera is my favorite camera, and I think it's great. And some people might say, well, it's not mandatory for you to upgrade your camera. And that's correct. It's not mandatory. But it really kind of sucks that, you have to basically pick and choose. What should have been something awesome where you can just celebrate, oh, look, my camera got new features. But again, I just think that it's kind of a shitty feeling to sell a camera with 4 features and then in a software update remove the feature that differentiated it from your other camera that you already sold. So to sum up, it's kind of annoying that Panasonic removed the feature, which was one of very few features that actually differentiated S5 IIx from the S5 II, apart from the, Batman look all blacked out, which I really like. Probably makes it worth it just for that. I find it really annoying that what was a live streaming beast that could be used in tons of professional situations now isn't.